Spotlight.
A day trip ends in disaster as a man dies in a head-on crash in Cornwall.
Another high-flying idea from Branson. He chooses Plymouth to launch his America's Cup challenge.
And king of the pool table in Exeter, all the way from the USA.
Good evening. A man died and a dozen other people were taken to hospital today after a car and a bus full of holidaymakers collided in Cornwall. It happened at 8:10 at Blackwater near Truro on the A30, and the road was closed for 2 hours. The man who died was the driver of the car, Mr. Andrew John Curnow, aged 22, of Goldsithne near Penzance.
The coach had left Newquay at 7:30, taking the holidaymakers to Penzance en route for a day in the Isles of Scilly. But at Blackwater, the escort, travelling east, apparently veered across the road, according to investigating police officers, and embedded itself so deeply in the front of the coach that firemen worked with difficulty to release the body of the driver. The police helicopter flew in an official photographer to record the scene, but other officers were at a loss to know why the accident had happened.
We're concerned to know exactly why the escort, which appears to be travelling in a easterly direction, had crossed over the central white line and collided with an oncoming bus travelling in the opposite direction. From our inquiries to date, we can find no reason for this happening.
Because what are the conditions like here?
Conditions are very good for travelling. It's a beautiful, clear day, no problem with visibility at all. This particular stretch of road is a main road. It's well maintained, and it is particularly straight in this area. No problems with any hazards at all.
So you're at a bit of a loss, and you think the public may be able to help you?
Yes, the traffic at the time would have been moderate. We've already had one witness come forward, but we are looking particularly for witnesses who were travelling east, who may have been directly behind the car involved, who may be able to shed some light as to why this vehicle suddenly crossed over from one side of the road to the other.
A dozen people from the bus were taken to hospital in ambulances. The most seriously hurt was the driver, Edward Roy Emmett, who suffered leg injuries. But the casualty department at City Hospital, Truro, quickly released the other passengers who'd suffered mainly cuts and bruises.
The coach was trying to slow down, to avoid the accident, and all we heard was the bang.
Were you sitting in a position where you could see the car coming?
No, didn't see the car at all.
So what happened to you after the bang?
After the bang, it was just we saw some smoke rising from underneath where the car had gone underneath the coach, and so it was a matter of getting out of the coach as quickly as possible.
How did you do that? Could you get out through the door?
Yes, we could get out through the door, yes. It wasn't a panic, it was just a matter of, carefully getting out of the coach.
We didn't know anything at all, it just happened. It just went such a bang, and everyone saw him to go straight forward into the seats in front and bang the face or, the nose, something like that. We were more or less part way back. Yeah, there was smoke coming from the front of the bus, well, from the car that had gone underneath, was coming in front of the bus.
We just heard this big bang, and then the smoke started coming in the coach, and things appeared to be broken up and that, thrown forward, and we all made our way off, all dazed.
Mr. Rimmer, were very many people hurt on the bus?
Everybody, to some extent, just bruises and cuts and things. I don't think anybody was seriously injured apart from the driver.
The passengers were ferried back to their starting point in Newquay. Most of them said they felt well enough to continue their holidays.
And there were long delays for holidaymakers heading into Cornwall this afternoon after a crash on the Tamar Bridge. 3 elderly people were taken to hospital suffering from shock when their car collided with another vehicle in the middle of the bridge. The accident caused havoc for drivers and the emergency services. One car had crashed into the back of another, blocking 2 lanes. Long tailbacks built up on both sides of the bridge while the fire brigade towed the wreckage clear. The fine weather may have tempted a lot of motorists to head into Cornwall early, and there are still reports of heavy traffic on the A38.
Spotlight can confirm tonight that millionaire pop tycoon Richard Branson has chosen Plymouth as the base from which he's to launch an assault on yachting's most prestigious event, the America's Cup. Although there's been speculation for some time that Branson's been planning to base his challenge in the southwest, we have news tonight that a deal has already been agreed. Now only the small print has to be settled, and the America's Cup isn't the end of the matter, because Branson is planning to throw down a major lifeline for Plymouth's future prosperity.
Virgin have agreed to rent about a tenth of the 16-acre Royal William Yard at Stonehouse. It's an old Navy armaments depot which former Defence Secretary Michael Heseltine pledged to release for job creation during his time in the Cabinet. That was to compensate for redundancies at the dockyard. Currently, there are around 200 workers still there, but the Ministry of Defence is committed to relocating them over a 4-year period. Conveniently, about the time the Virgin Group will have to prepare for the next America's Cup race in San Diego. Better still, the hope is that if Richard Branson likes what he sees at Royal William, he'll then be tempted to develop the area into the maritime centre that's long been talked of, a project that would create hundreds of jobs with shops, restaurants and housing. Today, of course, the intrepid Branson has been involved in his attempt to make the first crossing of the Atlantic in a hot air balloon. Travelling at an average speed of 100 miles an hour, Branson was earlier today on course to land in the Midlands. His first attempt to cross the Atlantic by powerboat ended when the boat sank just a few hundred miles short of Land's End. But last year he was successful, arriving at St Mary's on the Isles of Scilly in the 72-foot powerboat Virgin Atlantic Challenger. Next, it'll be the America's Cup. Virgin are pledged to invest £14 million on their assault on the world's premier yachting event. I understand Branson wants to build a 12-metre state-of-the-art racing yacht, which he hopes will wrest the trophy from American Dennis Conner and bring it to Britain for the very first time. Virgin and the Ministry of Defence are coy about the arrangement. Neither could confirm today that a deal has been fixed, but the boss of Plymouth's marketing bureau was able to.